you want the perfect custom, Joe Martin's the guy to see. He's got the vision. But Amanda, she's got the eye.
Joe Martin is a man who turned rust into gold, not with a magic wand, but with calloused hands, a welder's torch, and an unshakable refusal to let anything stay dead. He never chased fame. He chased perfection, grinding late into the Texas night in a shop filled with sparks and the smell of hot metal. For 7 seasons, millions of viewers crammed onto their couches to watch Joe, his wife Amanda, and a ragtag crew of fabricators breathe life into vehicles that everyone else had given up on. The show was called Iron Resurrection, and it was not just a hit. It was a phenomenon built on real skill, real family chemistry, and zero fake drama. Then, the garage doors slammed shut, the cameras stopped rolling, and the fans were left asking why a ratings winner would simply vanish. In this video, we pull back the curtain on Joe Martin's entire journey, from a kid sketching muscle cars in a Chicago classroom to the cancellation that blindsided an army of devoted viewers.
Are you kidding me? Look at this place.
Vans, cars, nostalgia everywhere. It's a picker's dream.
To turn buckets of rust into road art.
Pretty awesome, man.
It takes money smarts.
My main job is to make sure that we turn a profit.
The cheaper the better.
Street smarts.
I get to haggle for the best price, or as I like to call it, shaggle.
And design smarts.
I really love building these cars, but there's nothing like getting them out on the road and seeing how they run.
Joe Martin entered the world on March 14, 1972, in the windy industrial hustle of Chicago, Illinois. His family was blue-collar through and through, people who believed a hard day's work was the only true currency. When Joe was 10 years old, his parents uprooted the family and moved 1,500 miles south to DeSoto, Texas, a sprawling suburb of Dallas, where the sky was bigger and the roads stretched forever. The move hit young Joe like a lightning bolt. Chicago had buses and trains, but Texas had muscle cars, pickup trucks, and motorcycles roaring down endless highways. He fell in love hard and fast. While other kids wasted time on video games, Joe sat with a pencil and paper, drawing. He sketched Conan the Barbarian with bulging muscles, comic book heroes in mid-battle, and page after page of cars, every fender line and hood scoop obsessively detailed. His notebooks became a gallery of chrome and horsepower long before he could even reach the pedals. His artistic talent got him into unexpected trouble and unexpected opportunities. A nervous classmate once shoved a progress report in front of Joe and begged him to forge a parent's signature. Joe treated it like any other drawing assignment, replicating the adult script so perfectly that no teacher ever blinked. The kid avoided a grounding, and Joe got a strange new reputation. Soon, classmates were paying him to apply custom paint jobs to their bicycles, their skateboards, even their motorcycle helmets. Joe was barely a teenager and already turning his art into cash, learning the first lesson of his future empire. If you can make something look cool, someone will pay you for it. By his mid-teens, Joe had landed a real job at a local automotive accessory shop. It was grunt work, stocking shelves, sweeping oily floors, fetching parts for mechanics who barked orders. But the shop was a classroom he never knew he needed. Every day, he absorbed knowledge about engines, exhaust systems, paint chemistry, and the 1,000 tiny components that make a vehicle roar. His co-workers noticed that when Joe picked up an airbrush, something special happened. A plain motorcycle tank handed to him on Monday would come back on Friday looking like a piece of rolling art. Customers started asking for him by name. Side work flooded in, and Joe found himself painting flames, skulls, and candy-colored finishes in his parents' garage until 2 in the morning. He was making more money from his art than from his paycheck, so he did something that terrified his sensible Midwestern soul. he quit the steady job. He bought a battered little pickup truck, loaded it with his airbrush equipment, and drove from client to client across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, a one-man paint shop on wheels. The 1990s motorcycle craze turned Joe's side hustle into a career. Custom choppers exploded into mainstream culture, fueled by magazine covers and a new generation of riders who wanted bikes that looked like nothing else on the road. Joe realized motorcycles were a gold mine. They were quicker to build than cars, easier to store, and their owners never haggled. When a customer wanted a one-of-a-kind machine, they paid whatever it cost. No arguments. Joe pulled his younger brother Jason into the business, and together they founded Martin Bros Bikes, operating out of a cramped shop behind Joe's house. The name was simple: 2 brothers, 2 wrenches, 1 vision. Their reputation spread through Texas like wildfire. They were not just assembling parts, they were sculpting rolling art, and the custom bike world took notice. In 2004, a television producer came knocking. The Discovery Channel was launching a competition series called Biker Build-Off, and they wanted the Martin brothers to square off against some of the biggest names in the industry. Joe and Jason accepted, and they won. Not just an episode, but a world championship title. The victory was electric. Suddenly, Martin Bros Bikes was known far beyond the Lone Star State. The phone rang with orders from across the country. The future looked bulletproof. Then, the 2008 financial crisis hit like a sledgehammer. The custom motorcycle market, fueled almost entirely by disposable income, collapsed overnight. Customers vanished. Orders dried up. Joe was forced to close Martin Bros Bikes, padlocking the doors on a dream he had spent years building. It was the lowest point of his professional life. A lesser man would have walked away from the automotive world entirely, but Joe Martin simply shifted gears. He pivoted back to his first love, classic cars and trucks. He opened a new shop, Martin Brothers Customs, nestled in the Texas Hill Country near Austin, and began the slow, painstaking work of rebuilding his reputation one restoration at a time. The television executives who had worked with Joe on Biker Build-Off did not forget him. They were now programming for the Velocity Channel, later rebranded as Motor Trend, and they were hungry for a new kind of automotive show. They had seen hits like Fast and Loud and Counting Cars prove that audiences craved authenticity, real people doing real work without corny scripts. They contacted Joe and asked him to shoot a teaser reel showcasing what his shop could do. Joe and his wife Amanda, who handled the business side with a sharp eye and a sharper tongue, threw together footage of the crew tearing apart a rusted Hulk and transforming it into a gleaming showpiece. The network loved it. In 2016, Iron Resurrection premiered, and the Martin family's life was never the same again. The format of Iron Resurrection was beautifully simple and endlessly watchable. Every episode followed the same cycle, and it never got old. Amanda Martin and Joe's best friend, Jason "Shag" Arrington, a fast-talking former Marine with the gift of gab, would roam the forgotten back roads and overgrown car lots of rural Texas. Amanda had an almost supernatural ability to spot undervalued vehicles buried under decades of dust, and Shag had the silver tongue to negotiate prices down to pennies on the dollar. They would drag their latest find, a rusted carcass that most people would have sent straight to the crusher, back to Martin Brothers Customs. Then the real work began. Joe and his crew, a rotating but beloved cast that included his brother Jason, master fabricator Mike Zabonik, painter Shorty Ponce, the mechanically gifted Manny, and the hilarious Manuel "Pampa" Garcia, would tear the vehicle down to its bare frame. They would spend weeks, sometimes months, cutting, welding, fabricating, painting and tuning until the forgotten wreck emerged as a fire-breathing masterpiece. At the end of each episode, Shag would work his salesmanship on a buyer, extracting top dollar for the resurrected machine, and the whole beautiful cycle would start again. What set Iron Resurrection apart from every other automotive reality show was Joe Martin's ironclad refusal to participate in manufactured drama. While rival shows seemed to thrive on screaming matches, impossible deadlines, and contrived personal conflicts, Joe drew a hard line in the sand. "We refuse to do any of that dramatic crap," he told an interviewer in 2019 with characteristic bluntness. "We want our show to be educational and funny, and make the average guy want to go out and learn more about cars." The shop's atmosphere was genuine, real friends joking around, real problems being solved through skill, real deadlines that created natural tension. Viewers could sense the difference, and they rewarded the show with fierce loyalty. Families watched together, grandparents and grandkids alike, united by the simple joy of watching something beautiful emerge from something broken. Iron Resurrection became one of Motor Trend's highest-rated programs, a cornerstone of the network's lineup for 7 seasons and 66 episodes. The supporting cast was a crucial part of the show's magic. Amanda Martin was far more than just Joe's wife on camera. She served as the financial backbone of the entire operation, managing payroll, negotiating with suppliers, and keeping the business profitable while television production chewed through time and resources. Her sharp eye for undervalued vehicles and her no-nonsense approach balanced Joe's artistic temperament perfectly. Jason "Shag" Arrington, Joe's best friend since their early days in the Texas car scene, was a former United States Marine who brought discipline, loyalty, and an unstoppable motor mouth to every episode. His rapid-fire negotiation style earned him the nickname the fastest mouth in the South, and his rapport with buyers and sellers was pure entertainment. Jason Martin, Joe's younger brother and partner from the Martin Brothers Bikes days, transitioned to a behind-the-scenes role, handling location releases, coordinating with the network, and helping bridge the gap between the unpredictable reality of shop life and the rigid demands of television scheduling. Mike Zabonik, a master fabricator with an artist's eye and a perfectionist's stubbornness, was the silent workhorse whose welds and custom metalwork made Joe's wildest designs possible. Shorty Ponce, a talented mechanic and painter, brought skill and warmth to the early seasons before departing after Season 4. And then there was Pampa, whose real name is Manuel Garcia, the heart and soul of the shop's comic relief. Pampa's larger-than-life personality and constant pranks made him a fan favorite, but his abrupt departure after Season 3 sparked widespread speculation about a falling out. Rumors swirled about jokes taken too far, hurt feelings, and behind-the-scenes tension. The details were never publicly confirmed, but the show's chemistry suffered noticeably in his absence. When Pampa returned triumphantly in Season 7, the fan celebration was immediate and overwhelming. The crew felt whole again, and the humor that had made the show so special came roaring back. The builds themselves were jaw-dropping. The team resurrected a 1960 Chevy Impala that had been rotting in a field for 25 years, stripping it to the frame and rebuilding it with modern suspension and a heart-stopping engine. They took a 1955 big window truck and transformed it into a show-stopping custom that turned heads at SEMA. One of the most challenging projects was a 1970s step van, a boxy utility vehicle that Joe reimagined as a rolling billboard for a whiskey company, complete with custom woodwork, a bar, and paintwork that looked like liquid gold. Each build was a testament to Joe's core philosophy. Every vehicle, no matter how far gone, deserved a second chance. That philosophy resonated far beyond the garage. Fans wrote letters describing how the show had inspired them to tackle their own restoration projects, to save marriages through shared hobbies, to believe that things that seemed dead could still roar back to life. But while the cameras rolled and the fans cheered, dark clouds were gathering on the business horizon. The television industry was undergoing a seismic shift, and Motor Trend found itself standing directly on a fault line. The ratings data tells a complicated story. Iron Resurrection was consistently among the network's top performers, regularly pulling in over 350,000 viewers per episode in the P2+ demographic. The Season 7 episode Step Van to Showstopper Part 2, which aired on February 13, 2024, hit an impressive 383,000 viewers. These numbers would be cause for champagne at many niche cable networks. However, a closer look at the trend line revealed trouble. At the show's peak in late 2022, episodes were drawing over 430,000 viewers. By the end of Season 7, the audience had contracted by roughly 38%. The erosion was gradual, not catastrophic, but in the cold, spreadsheet-driven calculations of network executives, a downward slope is a red flag, regardless of the absolute numbers. Advertisers pay for growth and stability, not decline. The second and far more devastating factor was the fate of the network itself. In 2022, Warner Brothers. Discovery was formed through a massive merger, and the new corporate overlords immediately began slashing costs across the entire portfolio. Motor Trend, a niche automotive network with a loyal but limited audience, was particularly vulnerable. In November 2024, the axe fell. Warner Brothers Discovery announced that Motor Trend would shut down as a standalone linear television channel and transition to a digital-first model, folding its content into the company's streaming platforms like Discovery Plus and Max. When a network closes its doors, the shows that aired on that network do not automatically migrate to new homes. They get canceled, often en masse, as the parent company ruthlessly consolidates its content library. Iron Resurrection was hardly alone in facing the chop. Other long-running Motor Trend originals like Bitchin' Rides and Garage Squad met the same fate, victims of a broader industry pivot away from expensive linear programming toward cheaper, on-demand streaming content. The show was not canceled because it failed. It was canceled because the entire playground was being demolished. Joe Martin broke the news to his fans with the straightforward honesty that had defined his entire television career. In a video message that spread rapidly across social media platforms, he confirmed that Motor Trend had decided not to renew Iron Resurrection for an 8th season. Despite the show's strong performance and passionate fan base, he did not sugarcoat the situation, but he also refused to wallow. His message was part funeral, part battle cry. This is not a goodbye. It is a brand new ride. He reminded fans that Martin Bros Customs was not a television set. It was a real business with real customers, and the shop would continue building the same high-quality custom vehicles it had always built. The cameras might be gone, but the sparks would keep flying. Financially, Joe Martin is in a position that few reality TV stars can claim. He does not need the show to survive. Estimates place his net worth between $5 and $10 million as of 2025. This wealth is not tied to network contracts that can vanish overnight. It is rooted in a physical business with tangible assets, a steady stream of high-paying clients who want Joe Martin's name on their vehicles, and a reputation that commands premium prices. The Texas Hill Country Shop continues to operate at full capacity, with a waiting list stretching months into the future. The cancellation has, if anything, only intensified the loyalty of his fan base, which now follows his work through social media, YouTube videos, and appearances at major automotive events like the Turkey Rod Run and the SEMA show, where the line of fans waiting to shake his hand snakes around the convention center. The future that Joe, Amanda, and the crew are building is not a blank page. It is already being written in metal and paint. Martin Bros Customs is ramping up its YouTube presence, releasing behind-the-scenes content that gives fans the kind of unfiltered, unpolished shop footage that a network television show, with its standards and practices departments and rigid time constraints, could never provide. A new show concept, tentatively titled Iron Resurrection Refueled, has appeared on television listings, described as featuring bonus scenes, extended cuts, and new commentary from the cast. There is talk of a potential move to a streaming platform, where the creative freedom would be greater and the corporate overhead lower. Joe himself continues to appear at car shows, teaching seminars on custom fabrication, sharing the knowledge he accumulated over decades of trial and error. The name that he built through sacrifice, sleepless nights, and an uncompromising commitment to quality has not lost its power, because a network executive in a distant boardroom signed a cancellation order. Joe Martin is still out in the shop every day, sleeves rolled up, welding torch in hand, bringing another forgotten piece of iron back from the dead. That was always the real show, and it never depended on a camera to exist. If you love this deep dive into Joe Martin's journey and the truth behind Iron Resurrection, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more honest stories from the automotive world. Let us know in the comments which Iron Resurrection build was your all-time favorite and whether you believe the show will find a new home. Until next time, keep your wrenches close, your eyes on the road, and never give up on anything that still has life left in it.